Hi, I'm Tim Anderson, a revolutionary gardener, and today we're going to talk about container gardening. But before we get started, I want you to hit that subscribe button and that like button, and feel free to give us your comments or ask questions. Now, why container gardening? Everyone is used to growing food in soil, so what's the benefit of using a container to grow food? Well, let's suppose you don't have the space, you don't have the yard, you don't have the dirt to be able to do soil-based gardening. Container gardening becomes an ideal solution for growing food. And the other thing about container gardening is that it's scalable. So you can use 1, 2, 3, multiple forms of containers in order to expand your gardening appetite, if you will. So I like to use containers because in my backyard I have a little small space, and container garden gives me a great deal of versatility in my gardening. So what are containers? And container is kind of like a catch-all phrase. And so we're all familiar with pots. We're all familiar, some of us are familiar with grow bags. And then there is a category of others. And so what I have here in front of me would be a category of others. This is a produce basket. This produce basket is designed specifically for produce. Now, when you use other forms of containers, make sure that those containers are food safe, because a lot of containers can carry chemicals, oils, and so you want to make sure that you purchase a container that is food safe, food grade safe. That's what you want to make sure of. So this is an ideal container primarily because it's small, and it also has a number of holes on the side. And you would think that that would probably be a barrier for a good container. But one of the things that happens with these types of containers is that when the root system develops and goes beyond or goes outside these holes, it's a process known as air pruning. And when air pruning takes place, those roots will die off that are exposed to the air, but they will encourage new roots to take place. So air pruning is a great aspect to container gardening, and these containers are ideal for it. One of the things that I like about this is that you can use this for a number of different vegetables. Now, what you don't want to use this particular form of container for is to grow root vegetables, but green leafy, tomatoes, cucumbers, strawberries, all of those types of fruits and vegetables are ideal for this small container. So what do you put inside this in order to use it as a garden? Well, one of the things that traditionally we talk about in container gardening is putting potting mix rather than potting soil inside the garden, because potting soil will not allow for the proper drainage. We want to use a potting mix, or even better yet, we want to use a container mix. And there are a number of manufacturers out there who do container mix for containers. And so it's always, you can mix them. You can use potting mix, 50-50 potting mix and 50-50 container mix. But today I'm going to show you how to do this with container mix. One of the other things about growing in containers of any sort, from pots to grow bags, so forth, is that once you start to transplant your plant into the potting mix or the container mix, every 10 days to 14 days you must fertilize with liquid fertilizer. This has a finite amount of space, and it requires constant fertilization during the growing season. So you got to fertilize it at least at a minimum every 2 weeks. So keep that in mind. And you want to use liquid fertilizer. You don't want to use the fertilizer that has to dissolve on top of the soil, because it'll take too long for the plants, for the fertilizer to reach the root system. The other thing is that where you locate these is very, very important. You want to make sure that you put these where you're going to get full sunlight, at least 8 hours of sunlight a day, preferably up to 10 hours of sunlight. And also, because they need watering twice a day, you want to make sure that they're near a water source that you can go ahead and plant. Now, one of the things that's important to understand about container gardening is that container gardening can basically grow anything that you want to grow over and over again. But one of the things I don't encourage you to do with container gardening is to grow very large plants in container gardening, because it requires a lot of soil, it requires a lot of potting mix or containing mix. So you want to use a container that is roughly 5 gallons, at a minimum of 5 gallons, will hold 5 gallons. And most plants that you're going to be interested in planting will do just well in growing in 5 gallons. We're going to go ahead and fill this up. We're going to fill this up with a container mix. And as we do that, we're going to spread it throughout the container. And as we spread it out, we're going to take the chunks out of it. And this particular mix has a lot of good stuff in it. We spread this out, and we take the chunks out, and let's take a look at how deep this is. I'm going to use my hori knife because it has markings here on the number of inches that we have. And the hori knife is showing about 6 inches. Let's take this up to around 8 inches. And we're going to break it up a little bit. And this is going to be great stuff to grow in. Let's break this up. Now, one of the great things about this type of potting mix and container mix, it's very loose. It's going to both hold moisture and wick it out. Let's see where we are. Use our hori knife. And we're at about 7.5 inches. So this is good level to plant in. Let me warn you on this, is that this is going to compact. And so you want to make sure that you do this well before you plant, and then allow for the compaction, and then add more container mix or potting mix on top of that to get to your desired level. And once you get to your desired level, all you're going to do is take your hori knife and separate the mix and put your seedling down into the mix and cover that back up with the mix. This is a very simple process. Now, what you're going to do is that you're going to water, and then you're going to water at least twice a day. What I don't advise is that you plant seeds directly into this. And the reason why you don't want to plant seeds directly into this is because when you water seeds, the potential is that you can water the seeds out of this particular type of container. So you want to make sure that this is used for seedlings rather than just for seeds. But it is a great way, an absolute great way to do container gardening. And one of the things that you can do is to scale it. So you can do lettuce in one, you can do tomatoes, you can do cucumbers, you can dedicate the entire container to one vegetable, or to all strawberries. And the great thing about strawberries is that because strawberries their root systems don't go deep, they spread out. So this is ideal. This is the ideal medium for growing strawberries, quite frankly. This is a great method. I want you to enjoy this gardening method. Let me know of your experience with container gardening. Feel free to comment or to ask us questions about container gardening. And once again, I want you to hit that subscribe button. And remember, become a revolutionary and grow some food.